today I'm making this delicious, wholesome, and easy to make whole wheat bread. 1.5 cups of warm water. You want the water to be warm but not too hot. When you dip your finger into it, you want to feel that it's warm, but you don't want it to burn. To that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey and stir that in. Once my honey is dissolved, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and 1 package of dry active yeast. Give that a good stir. Make sure your yeast is dissolved. And then we're going to cover it and let it sit for about 5 minutes or until the yeast starts to foam on top. As we can see, my yeast has foamed up. Just perfect. You can see it's just foamy on the top. That step just ensures that you're working with an active yeast, a yeast that will rise when you're making your bread. That's really the only reason you're doing that. So I'm going to give that a good stir. This is really one of the simplest whole wheat breads you can make. Simple and fast. So I'm going to start adding my flour in slowly. I'm using stone ground whole wheat whole bran flour, so I won't need to add any white flour at all. So just give that a good stir, work your flour in. That's 2.5 cups of flour right there. We'll be adding a little bit more. Just keep mixing that until you have those first ingredients all incorporated. Stir a little bit more in there until I get it to the point where I can knead it. You don't want to use too much flour. Your bread, the less flour you use, the lighter your bread will be. And with a whole wheat bread, that makes a difference. But this yields a wonderful bread. So once we have those initial ingredients incorporated, we're going to add a little bit more. And it's time to get in there and knead this. That's what I like to do, is add a little to the sides. Flip it over so that it's well coated on the bottom and it doesn't stick. And you bring the outer edges into the center and press down. Very simple. Just bring that into the center, bring the edges into the center, and keep doing that. This bread doesn't require much kneading at all, which is the wonderful part of it. that's it as far as kneading. Just keep kneading until you have a nice smooth ball. What I like to do is I've taken another bowl, I've lightly greased the bottom, I've placed my bread in there, and what you can do before placing it is roll the outer edges in towards the center until you have a nice ball. And just place that in your lightly greased bowl, cover it, and let it sit. So it's only been about 30 minutes. My bread has almost doubled in size, and what I want to do now is just give it another quick kneading. So I'm just going to flip it over, bring the edges out in towards the center. This will help get more air into it and a much nicer texture. So just bring those edges out into the center. If you must, you can flour it a little bit. I prefer not to. The one thing about using whole wheat, you'll find it's not as sticky as the white bread. So bring the edges out in towards the center. Put it back in your bowl, cover it, and let it rise for another 40 minutes or until it's actually doubled in size. It's been about 40 minutes and my dough has doubled in size. So what I'm going to do is simply cut it in half. Just like that. And I have a lightly greased pan here. Just lightly greased. And what I'm going to do is simply take my dough. Now you could take this and knead it again, but I find that's not a necessary step. I'm just going to take half this. You already have a nice round loaf. Bring the edges in towards the bottom. Roll them in towards the bottom until you have a nice round ball. Very easy, not a lot of kneading involved. That's why I love making this bread. And place it in my lightly greased pan. And take the other half. Again, just bring the edges in towards the center, fold them in. Until you have a nice ball. Place that in my lightly greased pan as well. And now I have 2 loaves. You could bake that up as 1 loaf, but I prefer the 2 loaves. Once I have my loaves in my pan, what I want to do is brush them lightly with water. You can use oil as well. I like the water, works really well. Once I've brushed my loaves with the water, I want to make some cuts in them. So I'm going to just go around and make 4 cuts. And then I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds on top. This is completely optional. You can top them with anything you like, really. But I do like the sesame seeds, so I'm going to be sprinkling. sesame seeds on top. Once that's done, I'm going to place them in a slightly warmed oven, not turned on, and let them rise a bit more. So 10 minutes later, my bread has almost doubled in size. I'm now preheating my oven to 350, and I'll be baking these. These are ready to go into the oven. I'll be baking these at 350 for about 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes until they're golden brown on top. So my bread is out of the oven, it's done baking, it smells absolutely amazing. I love the smell of fresh bread baking. I've set it on a wire rack to cool for a bit, and we'll be back. My bread is ready. It's still slightly warm, but I am going to cut it. Always use a serrated edge, a knife with a serrated edge to cut your bread. Let's see, which one shall I cut? I think I'm gonna go with this one. And I'm just gonna try to cut it this way so that you can see as I cut it. Came out so good. Oh, so nice. The great thing about this bread is it slices so beautifully. Look at that. Some sesame seeds flying around, but that's okay. We're just going to get that onto a plate. Came out great. Time for a taste test. A little butter. So good. This bread comes out amazing. Tastes absolutely fantastic. Very easy to make. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. I hope you give it a try. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more recipes like this.